Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to. We're coming down to the end of the year, and at the end of the year, we like to let you guys know who we thought had the best and the worst of that particular year, this being 2024.
Yeah.
So in this episode...
2024 Common Era. Current era, isn't it? What is it? Correct era?
I don't know. It's still Amino Domino or whatever.
No, you don't use that
Domino.
anymore. It's
Anno Domino.
It's CE and BCE. That's what it is now.
Yeah, well, I'm old school, man. Anyways, we're gonna find out who had the best 2024 CE and yeah, because I don't know, who do you think had the best 2024 BCE, Larson?
Wasn't anticipating that question.
Hey, threw that one back at
Wow.
you.
I mean, are we talking still in the realm of wrestling?
I don't know. Like, was Moses back then? I don't know when that happened.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Moses had a killer 2024 BCE. Anyways, man, we're talking about wrestling.
No, Moses would have been well before that, I think.
What?
So Moses would have been well before 2024
okay.
BCE.
Well, I've moved on from the joke at this point.
Sorry.
Let's go ahead and let's move on to wrestlers who had a really good 2024. In the other video, which I think people probably... The people who had the worst 2024, worst year, that always performs better. Why do you think that is?
Because the word worst is in the title. That's why.
That's exactly. People love misery, don't they?
They apparently they do.
Well, we're going to discuss successes in this one, Larson.
Let's do it.
Let's do it, man. All right, let's go ahead and start with number 10.
10.
Drew McIntyre. Oh, boy, this guy was involved in what many consider feud of the year, of course, with one Phil Brooks, a.k.a. CM Punk. He had a highly rated match in WWE, Hell in a Cell. Did that get 5 from Dave Meltzer?
I got 5 from Dave.
All right. I think I gave it 5 too, didn't I?
I mean, I could check, but...
See, yeah, I mean, that's the thing, man, is like when you're going to put this stuff down, you gotta put what Steven Larson gave him for the star rating.
Oh, that's true. But we don't rate, like sometimes Dave does star ratings for episodes of Raw and stuff, and we don't do that.
That's, hey, New Year's resolution for 2025.
Wow, we do a star rating video every day, basically, huh?
I mean, they do really well on the Friendo Club channel.
They do, but I think it's because they're pay-per-view recaps and not so much because... Anyways... Yeah, Drew had a great year. You could easily make the case that from a character perspective, it was a career year for him. I know Absolutely. Back in 2020, he basically carried WWE on his shoulders during pandemic era when he was champion. It was him. It was Asuka. It was Sasha. It was Bayley. But he didn't get the opportunity to be world champ in front of fans. It was all empty arena Thunderdome era, and that was one of the driving forces of this new Drew McIntyre character, was getting denied that opportunity by Roman Reigns of the Bloodline a couple of years back at Clash at the Castle. He had the heel turn, massive chip on his shoulder, feuded with Seth Rollins for a good portion of the early part of 2024, was in the Rumble really late, eventually finally beat Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania 40, held that belt for about 5.5 minutes before CM Punk cost him the title via Damian Priest cash in. And then throughout the summer, late spring, summer, it was a situation where Drew would be an opportunity to succeed. CM Punk would deny him that success. For example, Drew won Money in the Bank. When the men's Money in the Bank match, had the briefcase, tried to cash in the same day. Phil cost him the title. Mm-hmm. And it was a back and forth between them all summer long. And it was that feud and the Judgment Day story that were the top stories going on Raw during that time. And as you mentioned, people were lauding this feud as feud of the year. Mm-hmm. And they had a really fun story-based match at SummerSlam, him and Phil. They had a strap match. And then, of course, the Hell in a Cell match, their blow-off match of the feud, which was universally praised and given credit as kind of bringing the Hell in a Cell match back to its violent roots. Mm-hmm. So it was a heck of a year for Drew McIntyre.
Great year for Drew McIntyre, and you got to think 2025 is going to be another really good year for him. The thing that I think is so impressive about Drew McIntyre this year is that it goes to show that when you buy into the story and stop worrying about what makes you look good, then good things can happen. Really good things can happen. Drew McIntyre, as a performer, was bought into the idea that Drew McIntyre, the character, could suffer failure after failure after failure, and it would make his character more interesting, more desperate, and it would allow him to play off CM Punk in a more interesting way than if he was like, it doesn't work for me, brother type guy, where he wouldn't allow himself. I mean, I'm sure there are probably plenty of wrestlers who'd take issue with getting cashed in on, or I'm sorry, with getting cashed in on the way he got cashed in on WrestleMania, because he's right. He didn't get the world title in front of the fans. He didn't get that run, but it's far more interesting to see what happens to him when what happened to him happens. So yeah, just a killer year for Drew McIntyre, the character, the performer, however you wrap around it. Really, really great year for him.
Indeed.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to number 9.
9.
Nia Jax.
A heck of a year for Nia Jax. She came back to the company in 2023 after being released, I think, about a couple years prior. Feuded with Rhea Ripley for a spell in 2023. That continued. In 2023, she was drafted over to SmackDown in this year's draft. And then from that moment on, was probably the most dominant force in the SmackDown Women's division. She won Queen of the Ring. And then at SummerSlam defeated Bayley for the WWE Women's title.
Yeah.
And from an in-ring perspective, career work for her. She is by far the best matches of her career has happened since returning to WWE.
Yeah.
She had a 4-star match against Becky Lynch on Raw before moving over to SmackDown when they kind of rekindled their feud from a few years back. Nia's character work was always really good, and she elevated that even further. And this alliance she has now with Tiffany and Candice has added an interesting dynamic to the SmackDown Women's division, where you have several stories kind of crossing over. I mean, we saw that kind of play out in War Games, obviously, but you have her, you have Tiffany and Candice, you have Bayley and Bianca, Jade and Naomi, and now with Jade getting attacked, we don't know who the culprit is. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of interest there in terms of the Who Attacked Jade storyline and how that's going to affect Nia's reign as champion going forward.
Yeah, I think the most interesting thing about Nia since her return has been, because she received a lot of criticism for the War Games match. But I think that's largely because they had her move outside. I'm not going to say a comfort zone necessarily, but they had her go beyond what really works for her. Because when they keep it really simple with Nia Jax, and this isn't a criticism, it's just some people are so much more effective when they stick to what their strengths are and not deviate from that. And one thing that I think that Vince I thought overthought Nia Jax a lot back during his days. And Triple H keeps it very simple with her. She's a dominant force in the ring. And a lot of her matches are really fun, like her match against Lyra Valkyria at the Queen of the Ring finals was, I thought, a really fun match. And especially when she's in there with like a really, really good opponent that can work well off of what Nia does well. And like you said, the character stuff is always really good. They just understand what Nia Jax is. And Triple H, more than Vince, and this is Triple H's biggest sort of strength, best attribute that he has, way more than Vince, is Triple H really does try to play to everybody's strengths. Of course, Vince thought that he could play games with people and sometimes humiliate them and carry out his own weird personal whims with people. And it compromised the integrity of the creative product of WWE during the last, that goes back a long way.
Oh yeah.
But even to his, final days, Vince was doing that shit. Triple H, there is nothing under Triple H, I've never looked at anybody and been like, is he punishing them right now? Like, you never get that sense. his punishment's going to be okay. You're just not going to be on TV or whatever. But he's not going to fuck us over, the fans, by carrying out some weird personal vendetta.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's tangential. Nia Jax has done really good work this year, and it's paid off. And I think that she is, it is genuinely intriguing to know, how is Tiffany Stratton going to cash in? Is she going to cash in on her? How is this story going to play out? Like you said, with Candice, Bianca, Bayley, Naomi, they're really drumming up some plot lines there on SmackDown with the women's division, and you love to see it. And it's going to be interesting to see how all this plays out. Who's going to take that title off Nia? If it's going to be a run that finishes up early in 2025, or is she going to have it for much longer? They really haven't had, under Triple H, they really haven't had like one huge era-defining championship reign for the women's division. Obviously under Vince, I think Bianca had the record on Raw. Bayley might have still had the record on SmackDown. I think that's what it is. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out, because there's a lot of moving pieces over there, and Nia's kind of the foundation of all that.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, man, let's move on now to number 8. Yes, Bryan Danielson, in his last year as a full-time wrestler, had his dream year, seemingly, because from the moment it was announced that he was going to be no longer wrestling on a full-time basis, he really took advantage of the time he had left, putting on matches with any number of people that he wanted to be in the ring with. And that played into the CMLL relationship that they had, and into AEW as well.
Yeah, his year in ring kicked off with a spectacular match against Okada at Wrestle Kingdom early in 2024. All told, he had 4 matches, 5 stars or higher, according to Dave. Highest match, 6.5 stars against, guess who? Will Ospreay.
Right.
Will Ospreay.
Yeah.
And in terms of Bryan Danielson, kind of, whether he literally did this or not, writing his kind of full-time farewell to wrestling, at least from his perspective, it seems like it couldn't have gone off any better. He had the matches he wanted to have. Apparently, he lost the title to the person he wanted to lose the title to. I maybe if it was up to him, he wouldn't have won the title in the first place. But I understand Tony Khan feels it's important to have certain wrestlers in his title lineage. It's my understanding.
Yeah.
And if that's and that was the story that he wanted to tell with Bryan Danielson on his way out, then so be it. But just a year of spectacular matches, and doing a lot of that while not being in the best shape physically, having a bad neck. It's what forcing him to take his leave and stop wrestling full time.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting going forward to see how much, if at all, he wrestles going forward. They just did the All In Texas press conference, and he said he's going to be at the show, not sure if he'll wrestle. And, threw a little cold water on the prospect of ever wrestling again. But, this is Bryan Danielson, so
you got to take what he says with a grain of salt.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm looking at our star ratings right now. And according to our star ratings, man, he did pretty darn good this year. I see him versus Swerve both got 5 stars from us. Him versus Shingo got 4 from me and 4.25 from you. I know you're a big Shingo guy. Ospreay versus Danielson got 5.5 from me and 5 from you. So that pretty much almost maxed out. It maxed out you and almost maxed out me. Bryan Danielson versus Zack Sabre Jr. at Wrestle Dream got 5.5 from me, 5 from you. So, and then of course there was the big strap match that we both loved. We both gave that 5 stars with Ricky Starks. So from the Steven Larson perspective, when it comes to our star ratings, Danielson, it's like him and Ospreay in terms of, I know, because I was looking at mine. I was doing the Wrestle Talk year-end stuff. So it's like, him and Ospreay were kind of like the top 2 dudes right there. So yeah, killer year there from
indeed
the Dragon, the American Dragon.
Yes.
Let's move on to number 7.
7.
Liv Morgan, the current WWE Women's World Champion. She did the thing that nobody else could do, man. She sort of completely, like, her year was like kind of just taking apart Rhea Ripley, you know, whether it was taking Rhea's faction away from her, taking Rhea's dude away from her, taking Rhea's title away from her, and being the focal point in a large part of Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, you know, and I think we could list her accomplishments, you know, winning the title off Becky at King and Queen of the Ring, being the first women's crown jewel champion, just happened in November. I think for her, from an evolution of her character, the comfort she had portraying this iteration of Liv Morgan and that confidence really translated on TV.
Yeah.
Her promos improved. Her presence improved. She just seemed overall a lot more comfortable with what she was doing on screen, and it led to the best work of her career.
She had been in the company for a long time. I forget exactly when she showed up, like 2014 or something like that. God, has it been 10 years? Maybe it wasn't 20. Maybe it was 2016. In any event, she's been in the company for a very long time. And at no point during that time have I ever seen Liv Morgan understand who she is as a character. And I feel like 2024 was that year. And I think that was reflected in just how much she was given the ball to run with by Triple H. And we see how it is now. I suspect that it's not going to be deep into 2025 that she's going to lose that title. I feel like, and here's the thing. I think it's just because Rhea Ripley is an absolute force of nature, and they want to move on to other things. Whether that's sooner than WrestleMania or at WrestleMania, I don't really think that she's going to carry it much beyond that because Rhea's like the centerpiece. That being said, the one knock is there has not been a ton of ground covered during her World Championship run for, I think, probably a variety of reasons. I think the timing on some of Rhea's injuries have probably played into that a little bit as well. But in terms of establishing herself as a character and as somebody who can, I'm not going to necessarily say carry a division, but in terms of somebody who can be the champion and carry storylines, she absolutely established herself in that way.
Absolutely. And yeah, you're right in terms of, and this isn't any fault to hers. It's just the creative they had, you know, whether that the timeline was disrupted due to Rhea's injuries or not, kind of the timeline they had laid out for this story just seems to be longer than necessary, you know?
Yeah.
Again, it's not necessarily a fault to Liv or Rhea or anybody involved. It's just the way this was plotted out now. The story is losing a bit of steam.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, maybe if Dom ends up moving her to SmackDown away from the rest of Judgment Day, that's a story beat that could provide some renewed interest from a creative standpoint in this feud. But, yeah, I mean, Liv's had a really good year.
She won of course, the first Crown Jewel Championship.
Yep.
I mean, that thing is...
Hey, I was happy that at least she's worn the ring a few times.
Oh, has she?
Yeah, she's worn it a couple times. I don't know about Gunther. Gunther maybe wore it once or twice, but Liv's worn it a couple times, yeah.
Oh, wow. I'm surprised that I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's great. That's great to see the ring, man, because the championships are the WWE Experience in Riyadh or Jeddah?
I believe so, yeah. I think it's Riyadh.
There you go.
And they'll
have to make our
take
way
him out
out
of
there
the
one
display
day,
case to bring him out for the show next year.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if they do that. They probably will. All right, let's move on to number 6. Toni Storm. Man, oh man, the timeless character was a breath of fresh air in AEW. It feels like she's been around doing the timeless thing for a while. This originated in 2024?
No, the very end of 2023.
Okay.
Like October of
World's
2023.
End or Full Gear? Oh, okay.
I want to say. So
Wrestle Dream or something like that?
It felt like one of those gimmicks that she had been doing for a while. And then I went back and looked. I was like, no, it was only 2 months before the end of the year.
Yeah.
Where, you know, they did the evolution to Timeless Toni Storm. There were some seeds planted beforehand. Yeah, it was on the October 4th edition where she dubbed herself Timeless Toni Storm. I guess it started back when she lost the AEW World's title to Hikaru Shida Dynamite 2000, which would have been late September, early October anyway. So
Okay. All right.
but some of the absolute best and most inventive character work we've seen in pro wrestling in a very long time.
Yeah.
She won the title back in November at Full Gear of 2023. Had it until All In when she eventually lost it to Mariah May. And, you know, AEW rightly gets a lot of flack for some of their storytelling, some of their creative. This is one they got right from day one.
Yeah, it is.
You know, because Mariah came in shortly after. Tony adopted the Timeless character. And it seemed like they had a plan from the very first day that Mariah was there. And they knew how it was going to culminate and where it was going to culminate. And it worked out so fantastically well.
Yeah, and I'm really curious, given the direction of Toni Storm now, how she's basically rewound to like her AEW debut.
Yeah.
Like that promo, that backstage promo, I think it was from Collision the other day, where, sorry, we're filming this on the 16th. When is this going up? This is going up.
This will be the day after Christmas.
Okay,
26th.
cool. Right on. So we're filming this 10 days ago. And she's like, oh, there's Mock Briscoe. So nice to meet you. And he's like, what? That stuff is so good. And it's like, it just leaves you wondering, what is this? You know, like, what is this? And where, and more importantly, where is it going to go? Dude, if AEW had this attention, this amount of attention to detail and foresight and planning into everything they do across the board, they wouldn't be where they are now. The attendance would be up, ratings would be up, people would be really into the product. If they took this approach with all of their programming, they would be in a much better spot. Toni Storm is an absolute gem, and like I said, the attention to detail is just off the charts.
You know, Toni Storm is like Swerve Strickland, Hangman Page, that they know how to use the freedom, the creative freedom in AEW to really push their ideas and make whatever they're doing better.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
You know, they all seem to be inventive, creative. And in Toni's case, especially the Timeless character, maybe what she's doing going forward, really pushing the idea of, all right, this is what a wrestling character can be. Yeah. You know, because the Timeless character was so different.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen characters who, like the vaudevillains, you know, they were based on tropes from like the 1910s, 1920s.
Right. Yeah.
But it was simply packaging. You know, it wasn't like, oh, they're time travelers from the 1920s, or they got hit in the head and they think they're from the 1920s or anything like that, you know?
That's the shit that you need to explore. It's like, okay, I get it, but what is this? And Toni all along the way would drop little hints about like, oh, it's trauma. You know, it's she's disassociating. That's what she's doing right now. Yeah. And now that it's coming to full fruition, it's like, oh, there's another layer to this now. Where, it's really, it has to be informed by something that is concrete. And then you can take it in all sorts of different places and have that be the justification for it.
Exactly. And Toni, like Swerve, gets so much out of losing. That's what started all of this. She lost the title to Sheeta.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You know, and it's both of them, Toni Storm and Swerve, really show the possibilities, what you can do from a character perspective after a loss, and how it can enhance your character rather than serve as a detriment to it. Like, you know, pro wrestling, they understand that pro wrestling is about storytelling, not wins and losses.
Yep.
And when the story outside of the ring informs what happens in the ring, and then what happens in the matches informs what happens next to the story, that's pro wrestling at its best.
It is. It really is. Yeah.
And she understands that.
Yeah. Yeah, she does. She absolutely does. And she's smart and clever enough to like to execute it in a way that is like thoroughly entertaining and engaging. Even if you just want to accept it on a surface level gimmick way, it works perfectly.
Yeah.
And then if you want to know the whys and you know and all that, oh, there's more there. Yeah, it's absolutely brilliant stuff. So she had a killer year, a killer 2024.
Her highest rated match, 4 1/4 stars against Thunder Rosa at AEW Dynasty.
Yeah,
several matches in the high threes as well. Just a fantastic year in the ring from a character perspective, and what she's doing now is really intriguing. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Absolutely. Same. Let's talk about number 5, man.
5.
Will Ospreay. Oh my God, he had 12 5+ star matches. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Assuming I didn't miss one. Yeah, he had at least 12, according to Dave. He probably had, I don't know, 5 or 6 from us, I would speculate.
All right, so I'm looking at his star ratings over here at the Friendo Club. Let's see here. His Kenny wait, when is this? Oh, this is 2023. Hold on a second. Sorry.
Yeah.
Rob, this is archive way back. Let's see here. What's this one? 2024 Revolution. Oh, wow. Against Takeshita, I only gave him 4 3/4. You gave him 5 stars. I gave him 4 3/4. What's up with Steve? Why is he an Ospreay hater?
I don't know.
Oh, but then he rebounded with 5.5 against Danielson. What's this one here? Ospreay versus Roderick Strong. Oh, I love both those guys. Oh my God, I only gave it 4.5 stars. Wow. Dude, this guy is a subpar wrestler.
Apparently.
Swerve Strickland match got 5.5 from me, though.
Yeah. Spectacular wrestler. Will Ospreay, according to Dave, and apparently according to us, is probably the best current in-ring performer in all of professional wrestling.
Yeah, I think we can agree.
And it's not just him doing flippy stuff and high flying stuff. He really doesn't do much of that anymore. It's fast-paced offense, but he's a storyteller too. It's not just all about the moves. Highest rated match against Danielson, Dynasty 6.5. He won the international title twice this year. Defeated Roderick Strong at Double or Nothing. Lost it to MJF on Dynamite. Won it back at All in London. Just had a spectacular match against Kyle Fletcher. Just probably the best in-ring wrestler in the world right now. Because whenever he's in a match, especially a match under the brightest lights on a pay-per-view, man, he delivers every time. Every time.
He really does. And he still, even though you're right, he doesn't necessarily do the flippy stuff, he does some crazy ass shit.
Yeah.
Like that Fletcher match was nuts.
Yep.
The stuff that they were doing in that ring, it was honestly, some of it was simply jaw dropping. It was really great. Yeah. And the dude is really like, it's crazy to see, because his first like official match with AEW is at Revolution. And it was interesting to see him come from, New Japan, which has a very specific style, a very specific presentation, I should say. And that character work that he did there translates so seamlessly to American cable television. The style of presentation, whatever you want to call it, sports entertainment, WWE style, that AEW is largely. I mean, it's funny to me when people say, "Oh, AEW needs to stop being so WWE." I'm like, well, it's sort of a standard language of wrestling these days. It's more in the details. But his promo skills, the character stuff, him understanding who he is as a character. Granted, I think it's probably not too far from who he is as a person, but still, he is a magnetic personality, and that translates really, really well on screen. And so, and he's got that charisma. The guy, he has it all. It's the total package.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had a killer 2024 because this was his debut year on American cable television.
Yeah. And pretty much as soon as he showed up on Dynamite, he was one of the, the top 3 most popular wrestlers in all of AEW instantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And his popularity's only grown from there. And I don't care what Alvarez says, Will still has his aura.
Oh, dude, he's totally got the aura going on, man. And I have no doubt. I honestly think that 2025 is going to be the year he wins that AEW World title.
Yeah, it seems likely. I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't have the title at some point in 2025.
Yeah. Speaking of titles, let's talk about number 4.
4.
Swerve Strickland.
Maybe my personal wrestler of the year.
Mm-hmm.
He's had 2 5-star matches. 5.5-star match was the highest against Ospreay at Forbidden Door. He won the AEW title from Samoa Joe at Dynasty earlier in the year. Had it for about 130 days, if memory serves. Lost to Bryan Danielson in a fantastic match. Had an absolutely bonkers cage match against Hangman Adam Page. Controversial in some people's eyes. I appreciate that he and Hangman were willing to kind of push the envelope in terms of pro wrestling storytelling, like we saw in their Texas Death Match just last year.
Yeah.
Nobody in wrestling knows how to turn losses into character development like Swerve Strickland.
True.
He's an intensely creative dude, puts on phenomenal matches, knows his character, and performs it at the absolute highest level every week. You know you're getting a good match from him if he's booked on TV. Man, just for the past 2 years, Swerve might be my wrestler of the year because he's just been doing phenomenal work.
Incredibly creative guy, like you said, and the recipient of a very, very, very rare feat, very rare accomplishment. He got a 6-star match rating from me for that aforementioned cage match with Hangman Adam Page. I thought that the nature of the finish, especially the lengths these guys are willing to go to shock for the sake of high drama, I thought was just really, really terrific stuff. Hangman Adam Page is another dude who could totally be on this list because he took that character of his and really, like, this could be like a 4A 4B situation because their feud they were so linked together via their feud. But Hangman absolutely took his character to a whole nother level this year as well, and it was just really, really, AEW. You've said before that it's fairly inconsistent with their creative, and I absolutely agree with that. One thing that is consistent is Swerve and Hangman kill it with whatever they're given, and it's awesome to see. You love to see it, and yeah, he's definitely had a killer 2024.
It's going to be interesting going into 2025. I don't anticipate Hangman winning the title off Mox soon, but if Page is kind of still in the title orbit later in the year, it would make a lot of sense, maybe from a storyline perspective, be more satisfying if he's the one that beats Mox as opposed to, say, Darby, at least from, I think, our perspective. Because as soon as he gets that title back, that means we're going to get more Swerve and Hangman, and they don't disappoint.
Well, I think, dude, given that they're pushing the Hangman Mox stuff so soon now, it would be really interesting if it's either Hangman or Swerve, because Swerve hasn't been involved in this stuff. He's still dealing with the Lashley stuff. But man, if Mox sort of clears house and the one guy left is Swerve, I mean, look, a lot of people I see now are sort of litigating the Danielson title change. Should that have happened?
Yeah.
I understand from Tony Khan's perspective, he likes Dan. I think to motivate the Mox story, it had to be Danielson that he does that too. I get that. I think that there's a way that Swerve probably could have won that and he could still get that story beat. But, whatever. But the idea of Swerve, who really is a terrific representative for AEW and what AEW should aspire to be more like the Swerve blueprint, for him to be the guy to take it off Mox, I think that could be terrific too. And then again, like you're saying, what's the Hangman's sole motivation? Keep that title out of Swerve's hands. Well, if he fails at that, drives him even further to the brink, and you get more Swerve versus Hangman. Maybe Hangman takes the title off Swerve, and we get some more of that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be really.
They're
good.
going to be forever rivals. It certainly seems like so.
I mean, dude, it does sort of seem with AEW because the next couple entries we're talking about WWE stuff, so this will be kind of the final word on AEW. Once they get past the whole, well, this guy should have it, or this guy should have it, and they get into, well, this guy should have it now because of the story, as opposed to, because we're coming up on, if it's Darby, it's gonna be because Tony Khan thinks it'd be great for Darby to have it, not necessarily because it's gonna be best for the story. When Will Ospreay wins it, largely it's gonna be because, well, he's our most beloved guy, not necessarily because the story demands it. And sometimes Tony Khan falls into that trap where it's, I want this match to happen because I want this match to happen, not because, hey, I've got a killer story. Like the Mariah May thing was because he had a killer story. Sometimes he dives into, well, I just want this match, and so whatever the story is to get us there is whatever the story is.
Well, whatever the story. Sometimes it's the flimsiest motivations. Yeah, we talked about it quite a bit on the our hot takes video.
A long time ago.
On the week of, it was aired on December 10th. We talked about it pretty extensively.
Yeah.
About how Tony Khan far too often books for matches he wants or he thinks the audience wants to see, as opposed to telling the story to naturally get there.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably, one of AEW's greatest creative failings. But personally, because for me, pro wrestling is a storytelling medium. I like in-ring action. I like it even more when it's motivated by story, and I'm engrossed in that story, and therefore I care more about the outcome of the match. I understand some people watch wrestling simply for the wrestling.
You know what's silly about that though is, if you watch wrestling just for the wrestling, great, that's awesome, good for you. I hope you enjoy it. I've seen the thing that's like kind of annoying is when you see criticism. And again, we do the reacting to dumb IWC tweets all the time over at the Friendo Club channel. But I saw one, it was on Blue Sky the other day, and the person had said, it's so funny because the ones on Blue Sky are always so like well worded and like thoughtful, even if the criticism itself is like kind of low. And it said something like, I really like AEW because I could sit there and watch the matches and understand that they are there for the matches, not just to get through the matches, to get back to the silly soap opera stuff. And I'm like, the silly soap opera stuff is pro wrestling to me anyways. Like it's all one big pot of cool ingredients, including the matches. But the silly soap opera stuff, that belongs in there just as much as the matches do, because with one, you get the emotional investment into the other, which emotionally invests you into the other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, it's always been a really good mix of the matches and the silly soap opera stuff. And when that combination is inspired, then it could be really tremendous stuff.
It can.
But anyway,
it can be.
Anyways,
absolutely.
Getting on to more silly soap opera stuff. Number 3.
3.
Jey Uso.
Yeet.
I don't know if either of us had figured on Jey Uso becoming probably the most popular single guy in the company in terms of, if you look at crowd reaction,
merch sales, apparently. Yeah.
Merch sales, he's at number 1 these days. He's immensely popular, and you and I think, are on the same page and understanding why. And that's because going back 4 years, we've seen this guy and experience just the worst psychological, emotional trauma being part of the Bloodline story. And the Yeet Jey Uso is a celebration of his escape from that, his survival of that. And I honestly think that the larger WWE crowd, whether they really understand it or not, buy into that as well. And that, to me, is storytelling at its best.
Absolutely. Yeah, whether consciously they think about it, they feel it.
Yeah.
Because that response that Jey gets every town they go to is earned.
Yeah.
Because, again, going back to the story, people were invested in his story. And him getting out from under Roman's thumb. And empathizing with him when he was going through that, and he was conflicted about what should he do. And I think that was, the one of the great master strokes of Sammy being a part of the Bloodline, is that it allow us as the viewers to see a lot more of Jay's humanity.
Yeah.
Because with Sammy, he let that guard down.
Yeah.
The guard he put up to kind of protect himself against Roman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And when Sammy stood up to the Bloodline, it was a massive emotional moment for Jey, and it was the pivot point for him to be where he is now. Mm-hmm. It's great to see Jey get to the level of popularity he's at, considering in character all that he went through. Mm-hmm. And rightly so, his match against his brother at WrestleMania was heavily criticized. It wasn't good. Yeah. Even Jey seems to realize that. Mm-hmm. Wants to run it back at some point, and I hope at some point they get the opportunity to do it. I don't know what the context would be. Mm-hmm. To hopefully show that, we can deliver on a major stage and put on a good match. His highest rated match of the year was against Braun Breaker. I believe is where he won the Intercontinental title September 23rd of this year. 4.5 stars from Dave. It was on Raw, so we didn't rate it. He only had the Intercontinental title for a month, but it was an important story beat because without winning the title, when he steps up to Roman, be like, hey, we're equals now.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't necessarily have the accolades as a single star, be able to make that claim, even if he just had the IC title for a month or however long it was, 3 weeks, whatever. It's like, hey, I am main event Jey Uso now. I have a title to prove it.
Yeah.
So you can't talk down to me anymore.
And here's the thing. Even after the WrestleMania match that was widely panned, he still got the biggest crowd reactions. So, again, everything is about, a variety, a recipe, the ingredients, and then getting the right recipe for those ingredients.
It's all about telling stories. And yeah, you could emphasize more the hour ring stuff or the end ring stuff. But the through line is, regardless, you're supposed to be telling stories to get people emotionally invested in the outcomes of these matches.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and it could, back in this in the 60s and 70s and even the 80s to a certain degree, it was, I don't like you for these reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that was enough. And sometimes now, if the reasons are interesting, that could still be enough.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get, it's not very often you get a story like the Bloodline saga where it's this rich like prestige television in a pro wrestling ring. It doesn't happen very often.
No, it doesn't. No, it does not. No. All right, man, let's move on to number 2. Oh man, CM Punk after 7 years of being 10 years of being away from the WWE.
There it is.
Came back in late 2023, and it was like, how are people going to respond to him? Oh my God. He is also one of the most popular guys in the company. Spent a lot of the year injured. Didn't matter. Still had what a lot of people are considering feud of the year. Much of which took place while he was injured and couldn't wrestle. Came back, wrestled a house show against Dom. He was fine there, but as soon as he got into the Royal Rumble, took a Future Shock wrong. And so he couldn't make WrestleMania, but he made an impact at WrestleMania with the Drew McIntyre situation we talked about earlier. Again, he had the whole feud with Drew, Hell in a Cell. Now he's launching into a thing with Seth Rollins, huge merch seller. I got suckered into buying this amazing CM Punk title over here. And, man, so far, I think maybe one of the bigger things is we're, again, as of shooting this, about 20 days away from the end of the year. One of my predictions was there would be no backstage drama with CM Punk. He'd be on great terms. He'd be on best behavior, no Punk dailies. And sure enough, so far so good. His nose is clean in WWE. He's getting along with everybody.
Seemingly, he's been a model employee. I guess
unless he's a raging prick backstage and they're just saying don't say anything.
Maybe,
I don't know. But you're right. Seemingly, there hasn't been any info about him being a bad dude backstage.
Yeah, hasn't been any info to that regard. For someone who wrestled only a handful of matches during the course of 2024, every one of those matches had impact and had meaning and was consequential to the stories being told. And hats off to both him and Drew for maintaining a story, a feud with that much heat when one of the participants in said feud can't wrestle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And yet at a certain point, it got a little bit redundant with them costing each other opportunities. But in the end, the Hell in a Cell match was a quality payoff for the feud. And, there seemingly is a long line of people that can't wait to get their hands to feud with CM Punk. So I imagine 2025, assuming he can stay healthy, is going to be another good year for him.
Man, given that he did those matches that he did with Drew McIntyre, I know we're all sitting here like, oh God, I hope he doesn't get injured, but looks like he's having a good time, and it looks like maybe he, you're right. And right now, I think the rumor is that it's going to be him versus Seth at the
Netflix premiere, yeah.
Netflix premiere, yeah, January 6th, Netflix premiere. And yeah, man, if he can make it to WrestleMania, I'm sure I would imagine, I suspect he's either going to be in the Rumble or the Chamber, or he'll be in a title match between now and WrestleMania, in addition to the first Seth match. And then he'll be at WrestleMania and maybe he'll get his main event. I don't know. I mean, you're right in that he hasn't wrestled a lot, and they do need to make sure to maximize his actual matches, because he is old, and you want him for those big shows, for those big events, and for the feuds that they have planned for him. So I don't expect to see him wrestle a ton.
No.
But he doesn't, as we've seen, he doesn't need to advance his stories.
No.
So yeah.
Let me ask you this.
Okay.
Given the rumors, reports, whatever you want to call them, that Phil's going to be taking on Seth at the Netflix premiere, would that seem to be an indication that the culmination of their feud will happen at WrestleMania, or will by then Punk have moved on, called in his favor, to get into a potentially higher profile feud that would kind of guarantee him a main event spot night 1 or night 2? I'm talking about Roman Reigns. You know, they had Phil, CM Punk, join the Good Bloodline team. There was some tension there between him and Roman. Ultimately, they put it aside to win. We don't know what the nature of the favor is yet that Punk will call in at some point. But if it does lead to a match against Roman, you know, say Cody's taking on The Rock. Roman gets the Ula Fala back at the Rumble.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So his story with Solo pretty much done. That could open the door for potentially Punk Roman if that's something they want to do instead of doing, you know, a 4-month program with Punk and Seth.
Well, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Boy, kicking Seth to the side would be rough because. Yeah. But that being said, and yeah, I know you can attribute some of it to the lore of CM Punk being gone for so long, and Seth has been there day in, day out, breaking himself, but that doesn't always get rewarded.
Mm-hmm.
You go with what's hot.
I mean, that's what happened with Punk when he was champion. They brought The Rock in.
Yeah, right, yeah. And the same thing happened with Punk and Brock. And who's going to be there the next day? I'm going to be there the next day, so what good does it do anybody for Brock to win? Well, let me ask you this. Let's say they do go in that direction.
Sure.
Who's night 2?
Well, if
it's Cody Rock
and night 2,
Punk
yeah.
Roman. Well, okay, is the title night 2 with Rock and Cody?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If The Rock wrestles at WrestleMania in the singles match, he's the main event at night 2.
All right. Oh man. Yeah, maybe.
Because if
you're probably right. I'm just throwing it out there as like, I don't know that's for sure.
No, I don't think it's for sure. I'm just positing the question because if it's Rock, Cody, Roman gets the Ula Fala before Mania, because I don't know how they're gonna get 5 more months of the story out of the Bloodline thing before Roman gets the Ula Fala. I mean, Roman's not on TV on a weekly basis, so I guess it's possible, but
yeah.
It would seem like it
ain't gonna be Roman Solo at Mania. No. That ain't gonna be the thing. That'll be the Rumble.
So then Roman needs a high profile match at Mania, but against 2.
You're right. No, you're absolutely right. No, and I'm saying, does the box office of the Tribal Chief, like it did back at 30, Tribal Chief, it wasn't Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns versus Undertaker, main evented, no titles there. But I see your point. The Rock is not any. He's not.
If The Rock was on the card at WrestleMania 33, he would have been the main event. And that was a one-night WrestleMania, not a 2-night deal. You know?
I know. Yeah, man.
Or do they do Punk Cena?
Oh man, dude. Yeah, I don't know. Let's move on to number 1.
Sure.
This is the same conversation will roll into number 1 here.
Absolutely.
It's Cody.
Yeah, number 1's Cody. Finish the story.
He finished the damn story finally. And on top of that, he had that story almost taken away from him. The story finished almost taken away from him.
Yep.
And somehow, some way, and I still think I'll put my conspiracy
There's no
hat
somehow,
on.
some way. He was grumpy. We delivered the news in front of fans on February, whatever, that SmackDown when The Rock was there. Obviously grumpy. Obviously not into it. The fans were like, "We're gonna boo this because this is not what we want."
Oh, but I'm saying here's the thing though, Rock wouldn't have given a shit about that. I think this was. What did they used to call triangulation of crossfire, Larson?
Yeah.
This was Triple H, Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns all conspiring to get Cody and Roman night 2. That shit happened. That shit, and I'm telling you, Roman Reigns was. Go back. Anybody who doubts me, go back and watch the behind the scenes hella kayfabe documentary and watch Roman Reigns anytime he's with The Rock. He is fake as fuck. He wants nothing to do with this guy. He knows that Rock came in, fucked things up. They had this Cody thing going. It's narrative. It's the finishing the story. Let's just get this thing over with. It needs to happen now.
Yeah.
And Rock was threatening that shit, man.
Yeah.
Roman was in on it, man.
I don't know.
Oh, man, nobody will ever know. Well, Gewurz, he'll write a book one day.
Yeah, someone will write a book at some point. Anyways, let's talk about Cody some more. He had a 5-star match against AJ Styles at Backlash France. The main event, WrestleMania 40, 4 3/4 stars from Dave. Don't recall what our ratings were for Mania match, at least.
I don't think I went 5. I think I went to here. I can look him up here real quick.
And he is one of the cornerstones of the company.
Roman versus Cody, we both gave 4.5.
All right, that sounds about right.
That's a good. Yeah, that's exactly what it should be.
Yeah.
People were upset with us because we can give it 5, which is good because I want toxicity. I want people to be upset with us.
I know you want toxicity.
Yeah,
you're all about that.
Yeah. But anyways, no, Cody had a stellar year. Any other accolades over there? What else you got over there?
What
other accolades you had? I interrupted your the Cody accolades.
No, he won all his matches basically. Well, Cody wins,
Yeah, oh yeah. Still massively popular, huge merch seller.
Sells tons of merch. One of the cornerstones of WWE.
Has a bus?
He has his own bus. He's got his own endorsement deal with Wheatley.
He almost though fell down in these rankings because he allowed Kevin Owens to sucker punch him and beat him up in front of a bunch of just marks with their cell phones. That's humiliating. That's absolutely humiliating.
I think that was the idea that was supposed to be humiliating.
By now, by the time this airs, we'll know whether or not Kevin Owens will have beat him.
That's true.
So, maybe you see, he beat Kevin Owens at, he already beat Kevin Owens, but he beat Kevin Owens again at Saturday Night's main event, or Kevin Owens shockingly beat Cody Rhodes, but Cody's going to get that title back any day now.
Yeah, he'll get it back. Yeah. He'll walk into WrestleMania champion.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. Let's talk about some honorable mentions here. There's actually a long list of people we could have included on the top 10 in this honorable mention. A lot of people had really, really wildly successful years.
Good year for wrestling.
It really was. The level of talent in professional wrestling now has never been higher. Let's start off here with 2024 NXT Men's Iron Survivor, Obafemi. Opened the year winning the Breakout Tournament. Cashed in that contract basically immediately, beat Dragon Lee for the North American title. Had it for most of the year before he kind of somewhat confusingly lost to Tony D'Angelo.
Yeah.
Had some awesome matches.
That knocked him off this list.
Dude, his match with Dijak and Josh Briggs.
Yeah, it was really good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Fantastic match. Yeah, heck of a year for Obafemi. And I don't know what's going to happen at New Year's Evil between him and Trick, whether Trick's getting called up, so only Oba's going to win the title, or what? Or the opposite, Trick wins, Oba gets called up. I don't know.
Obafemi wins again. He's putting on a fake accent.
I understand.
So it's okay. I can do that accent. It's
know.
A fake. Every time I see him do a promo now, I think about that. How do you think at any point on main roster, let's say he becomes just a massive star in main?
Sure.
Which he probably will.
Yeah.
Is he ever going to drop the accent?
I don't know.
Because sometimes when you get up into that Cody area, the line between the real and the fakies, sometimes it get blurred, Is he ever going to drop the accent? Now he's stuck doing it.
Yeah, no.
Could you imagine that? That could be like a nightmare. It's now I'm stuck doing this accent.
You put Joe Hendry on this.
Yeah, I don't know why you're laughing that one off, man.
Well, he was popular for a month and a half, and then he went back into the obscurity of TNA and lost to Nick Nemeth in a title match.
He had a top 10, top 5 song.
Yeah, he had a good
theme
year.
song. Yeah, he had a great year.
He had a really good year.
One of the best years. He deserved to be in the top 10. Yeah, no, he showed up as part of I don't know, talent exchange program, and just absolutely dominated the attention span of NXT. Everybody wants him. So many signs, and he's probably turned that into a WWE contract because he's probably going to be at the Royal Rumble as well.
Yeah, would not surprise me. No,
As
it's
soon
really
as he's
good
done
year
with
for Joe.
TNA, jobbing him out to Dolph Ziggler. Get out of here with that TNA. That's TNA at a
TNA
wouldn't be
doing
on this
TNA
list.
things. Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not Joe Hendry.
Gunther, whatever his creative is now, he did walk it this year as the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion ever. Lost it, won King of the Ring, won the title. Mm-hmm. Apart from losing to Cody and Sammy, I don't think he's lost a match this year.
Yeah, but he's oddly lost his confidence now on Raw. Like,
Yeah,
that's sort
weird.
of the only reason why he shouldn't be on this list. Because, like, the world title reign, look, it's going to be so difficult for anything to live up to the Intercontinental Championship reign. That's going to be his thing. That's going to be what he hangs his hat on. Because he ain't going to be champ. I don't think he's going to be champion for very much longer. I'd be kind of surprised if he was champion walking into Mania, unless it was like he was going against Cena and they want Cena to break the record. Mm-hmm. Or it's like Punk and Rollins. I don't know.
Trick Williams, cornerstone, one of the cornerstones of NXT. In a lot of respects, face of the company.
Except for a month and a half. When it was Joe, that was wild that Joe Hendry just stepped in there and they were like, it's the Joe Hendry show now.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. Two-time NXT champion, had a great feud with Carmelo Hayes. Heck of a year for Trick Williams. Another cornerstone of NXT, Roxanne Perez. Mm-hmm. I think she's had the title all year, or pretty darn close to it.
Yeah.
Pretty darn close to it.
Who did she beat for that title?
I don't remember. I think that happened when we weren't watching NXT.
Oh, that could be.
But a heck of a year for Roxanne Perez. Yeah, you can look that up.
I'm going to look it up.
Jack Perry had himself a good year. He made his own TNT title, even though he lost it.
Oh, my God. Jack Perry was was threatening to be on this list? That's crazy.
Yeah. He was doing a whole lot of nothing, and then Tony Khan released the CM Punk footage, and then he turned that into something.
He did. I'm a fan of Scapegoat.
No, I think he had a pretty good year.
Oh, that's right. You know who had it before Roxanne Perez? Lyra.
That's right. She beat Lyra beat Becky for it.
Kyria.
And then Becky beat Tiffany Stratton for it.
Correct. Who did Tiffany Stratton beat for it?
All right, I don't remember that.
Vacant. Because Indy Hartwell had it, bizarrely.
That's right, and was drafted. Yes.
Yep.
No, I thought Jack Perry had a pretty good year for himself, all things considered.
I agree with that. All things considered is the caveat there.
Athena. Mm-hmm. The cornerstone of Ring of Honor is basically her show.
It's basically her show.
She's coming up on 2 years as champion.
Yeah, she might have been. Jesus Christ, really? 2 years?
I think so, yeah. She got that spinner title
one of those
from Billy
years,
Stark.
she should have been brought up to Dynamite because, boy, oh boy.
She's great.
Yep.
I got Takeshita on here, especially the second half of the year. I mean, the first half of the year, he's putting on good matches, just not winning them. Now he's having good matches and winning.
Yeah, but then he did have that dud against Ricochet. But I put that on Ricochet, not him.
Of course you do.
Anybody else? Oh, that's it.
That's it, unless you can think of anybody else.
Nope. I think that's it. I think that's a good.
Well, Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, I know he's hurt for a good chunk of the year, but he was arguably the MVP of WrestleMania this year, pulling double duty, putting his body on line.
Yeah,
tearing up his knee and his back.
Yeah, no, a hell of a story there. What did he do? Oh, he had that night one main event, the tag match. Yeah, that was cool.
Came out in Shield gear to help Cody get the win.
Anyways, that's going to do it for this edition of episode. This is the best wrestlers of 2024. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Who do you think had the best 2024? And join us for worst of 2024. It'll either be coming up after this or before this. I don't know where it's scheduled on the calendar. But you guys can check it out at some point. Till next time, we'll see you guys.
Goodbye.